Guys, what's going on? It's Dan, and I just wanted to throw together a quick video to discuss the new mechanic that's coming in Pokemon's Generation 9 game, Scarlet and Violet, terastalization. So for those of you that don't know, terastallization can occur once per battle, and based on official 1-hour reviews with a Nintendo representative, it appears that terastallization will allow a Pokemon to change a type outside of its normal types, or it can become its own type. If it changes to a type outside of its normal type, it obviously gets the defensive bonuses of that type, and moves of that type get Stab. It will also retain Stab attacks, which is same type attack bonus, a 1.5 times multiplier, on its own moves. So for this Tyranitar, if it was terastallized as a Ghost type, then its Shadow Claw would get the 1.5 times multiplier along with Rock Slide, but Iron Head would not. Crunch would also get it if I had Crunch on this set. However, if a Pokemon terastallizes to a type that it already has, it also just becomes that type only defensively. Offensively, its secondary typing would retain its normal Stab bonus. So for example, if this was a Terra Rock Tyranitar, its Crunch would still retain its Stab bonus, but its Rock type attacks would have, instead of a 1.5 times multiplier, we believe it to be a 2 times multiplier, similar to adaptability. So I just wanted to talk about some Pokemon that will likely be returning in these games, and what I think some good Terra types for these Pokemon could be that would help them to be more competitive in a VGC style metagame. I'm talking about VGC doubles here, not singles. I just want to make sure that I am very, very clear on the fact that this is doubles, not singles. Please don't at me for not talking about Toxapex. But without any further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and dive on into this with this Tyranitar. I have its item as a ghost memory, and in this item slot, I'm just basically going to be using that to symbolize its terastallization, since there isn't really a good showdown server that has terastallization. So I think Tyranitar could actually have a variety of things. Ghost was my first thought on it, because Tyranitar is quad weak to fighting type attacks, but because Ghost is immune to fighting type, if you can terastallize your Tyranitar into a Ghost type and then just eat a close combat for nothing and fire back with powerful attack, then that's a pretty good option on Tyranitar. It could also be a Steel type, because one type that beats Tyranitar decently are Fairy types. You do have access to Iron Head. If you Terra Steel, you're then suddenly going from weak to Fairy types. 2, you're going to be resisting Fairy types, and you're going to be able to KO back with an Iron Head. But I think one of the more interesting options is to Terra Rock your Tyranitar, because then you'll get double Stab on Rock Slide. Tyranitar has a pretty high base 134 attack. However, a lot of times, especially with spread moves, it seems like it's just missing out on some calcs, and you want to run either a Life Orb or a Choice Band on it. But if you're able to Terastallize Rock and then run that on top of it, or even you can run some defensive items and Terra Rock it, and you're just going to be hitting with functionally double base power on your Rock Slide, even though it's a spread move, that's going to be dealing a lot more damage. So Terra Rock Tyranitar, reducing your quad weaknesses, you maintain a lot of the same weaknesses, so defensively it's not such a great upgrade, but offensively it's very, very good for Tyranitar, so I think that's a decent option. Moving on next, we got Garchomp. Again, Garchomp's weak to Fairy, so I have Iron Head for a potential Steel Spike, but I do think that a ground terastallization and just getting double Stab on Earthquake off of base 130 attack, or whatever single target ground type move it's going to get in this generation, I'm pretty sure it's just going to be Stomping Tantrum. Yeah, it's just Stomping Tantrum in Gen 8, and I assume it's going to be similar in Gen 9. But again, just reduce some weaknesses. Dragon type defensively doesn't add a lot to Garchomp. It does give it that quad weakness to Ice, so this would reduce your quad weakness, make it just a single weakness. And then you've got a really good stat pool and a really good move pool, so I think that Garchomp, Steel, or Ground to get rid of some of the weaknesses, take better advantage of its natural bulk, and just hit with some really hard attacks. Gyarados is really interesting, because Gyarados gets a lot of moves. It could be a really good grass type with either Intimidate or Moxie if you go with Power Whip. If you could have Earthquake and make it a really good ground type. And if you make it a ground type, then its quad weakness becomes an immunity, much like Ghost Tyranitar. You can make it a dark type, you become immune to Prankster, Will-O-Wisp, or Prankster, Thunder Wave, and then that way it's just going to be a much more offensive option. You can even make it a flying type, because right now its only physical flying type move, I believe, is Bounce. Let me just make sure. Yeah, but if you instead have Terra Blast on it, which is the new move that will give you an 80 base power move that matches your Terra type, and you go with Terra Flying, you suddenly get a stab physical flying move that can hit on the same turn that a lot of people might not be expecting. So I think Gyarados is going to be really flexible for a variety of reasons. It can fill that niche of a physical grass attacker, the ground type. Dark, you can Terra Water, give yourself double stab, or Terra Flying to actually give yourself a flying type move. So I do think that Gyarados is sleeper pick for one of these great Terra options, especially early in the VGC metagame. Regieleki, it's pretty simple here. You can Terra Grass, and then you are resisting ground and able to hit it back. Some people say Ice, but I think I like Grass just a little bit more defensively than Ice. They're both bad defensive types, but they do get the job done of hitting the ground type while not just dying to it like Regieleki normally does. Or you can Terra Electric it, and then with Transistor, you're Terra Electric, and you're just going to click Discharge or something and deal a stupid amount of damage. So Regieleki, pretty straightforward options, but that doesn't mean bad options. Hydreigon, okay, this one is, I really think, gotta be a Terra Steel. Because, again, it's got that quad weakness to Fairy. With Dazzling Gleaming, as common as it is, you really need to have a way to work around it, and I do think that Terra Steel, and you have Flash Cannon, so you didn't even need to run Terra Blast. Terra Blast running it on some Pokemon is not always going to be ideal, because you can, one, do something with a secondary effect, and two, if you don't Terastallize, you don't just want an 80 base power normal type move in your slot. But Terra Steel will give you that matchup advantage against Fairies. Flamethrower could, to a lesser extent, do that if there are other things you're worried about, maybe if you want to beat opposing Steel types more efficiently, but I think Terra Steel Hydreigon just looks like such a great, safe, default Terra option that I wouldn't be surprised to see quite a lot of. Landorus Therian. There are some options here. You could give your Rock Slide stab by going Rock. You could use a physical flying type move that isn't Fly, again with a Terra Blast if you go flying, or you could do the double stab Earthquake thing that we were looking at with Garchomp. I think that any of these options are pretty decent. I lean towards giving it stab on Rock Slide. It's got a massive base 145 attack, decent speed tier, and Intimidate. So if you're going to be surviving a hit and being able to potentially get some flinches with Rock Slide and make the Rock Slide really strong, that could be great. If you want to build your team around spamming Earthquake with it, that's another good option. Torkoal. Okay, this one's pretty self-explanatory. Give it even more power on its fire type moves, make your eruption even stronger under Trick Room, maybe you give it Heat Wave or Flamethrower as secondary options. Torkoal's always been sort of a one-trick fire type Pokemon, and just Terrafire options just make it even stronger in the right situation. Are there other options with Torkoal? Yeah, I guess you could run something like Terra Grass, have powered up solar beams, and beat water types more efficiently in the sun. So if there's anti-sun modes, then that is a decent option with the Torkoal, but I just think that Terrafire looks too good to turn down with the Torkoal. Up next, we've got Salamence. Again, another quad weak Pokemon that you can get rid of the quad weakness, but Salamence is a lot like Gyarados in that it has a lot of different sets you can use. And Salamence, you could be either physical or special. You could be a fire type with Flamethrower. You could be a really good water type with Hydro Pump, like a water type with Intimidate. It's a pretty tough thing to deal with. You could be dark type to get immune to Will-O-Wisp if you think you're going to be facing Will-O-Wisp and Crunch. You could even be a flying type to increase the power of your dual wing bait even further. Or to give yourself Hurricane or Air Slash if you want to go with a special set. Salamence, there's just so many good options. I mean, like, look at the move pool on this thing. You could even do the Rock Slide thing with Salamence. So there's a lot you can do here. It's got good, well-rounded stats, and I think that it's going to be, along with Gyarados, one of the more flexible Terra options in terms of multiple types you can select. Lycanroc, I just think giving yourself Terra Rock for more power on your Rock Slide again, and a Cell Rock for that priority. That's just going to be hitting really hard, especially with Tough Claws. A Cell Rock with double stab instead of 1.5 times stab. That's going to pick up a lot of calcs, especially if you throw like a Life Orb or a Choice Band on it. Lycanroc could be an absolute monster cleaner. Eelektross. So Eelektross has no weaknesses already, and it's got Levitate, so why not just make its Electric Tech moves even more powerful? You can just do this, put Discharge on it, and just start absolutely crushing everything around you. Put Thunderbolt on it. Like, Eelektross has decent offenses. Like, they're not great, but if you're able to give it double stab and it's already decently bulky and has no weaknesses, this is going to be a lot for people to deal with. And then rounding it out, I've got Azumarill and Scizor. I'm going to talk about them together because they are pretty similar to the Lycanroc idea in that I think if you want to put this Azumarill and just give it Aqua Jet and Terra Water with huge power, base 50 attack, not really, because huge power, Terra Water, it's going to be doubled. You don't even have to build a drum. Aqua Jet's just going to start picking up a lot of KOs. You could also get a Terra Fairy, for example, with Play Rough, but I do think Water is going to be generally stronger. And then with Scizor, again, you would probably go with Technician here. Technician, Double Stab, Bullet Punch, so Technician gives a 1.5 times multiplier. If it's Double Stab, that's a total of a 3 times multiplier onto Bullet Punch, which is base 40, and then you're hitting with a base 120 functionally priority move, which is a lot. So this is just like a quick little thing about Pokemon that I think would be really good with Terastallization that may be returning in Gen 9. In future videos, I'm going to talk a bit more about some of the new Pokemon that will be coming in Gen 9 and how I think that they might interact with the mechanics of the game at that point. But if you guys enjoy this type of, more off-the-cuff type content instead of pre-planned stuff, just let me know in the comments below. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Gen 9's coming out pretty soon, and I'll have a lot of content with that. Bye!